center there. And I don't want to waste more of your time.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Chris. Good afternoon. Let me be very, very brief in my presentation as to just leave some time for Q&A if there would be time. But basically, I'm coming up from the Middle East, of course. Actually, this is something that should be taken into account. But this is my book in Hebrew. It is called Back to the Future. It will be translated into English and Arabic. Basically, it deals with the Middle East after the Arab Spring. So, what I'm going to do is just to have the presentation being divided into five main sections, 5 chapters of the book. And let me just provide you with some basic idea of what I have in mind, and later on, of course, we're going to deal with that in a different way, I guess, if there will be time for the Q&A. So let's start with the first thing to be mentioned. I don't know if you can see that, but you know, what we have seen in the, let's say, Arab Spring upheavals is the ousting of dictators in the Middle East. Gaddafi, Hosni Mubarak, Ali Abdullah Saleh of Yemen, Zayn al-Abidin bin Ali of Tunisia, and of course, to some extent, Bashar al-Assad and Saddam Hussein before that. What I'm trying to say is that for all means and purposes, the one-man show by which we characterize the Middle East in the 20th century is no more there. We did in the 20th century a top-down analysis because the ruler and his entourage were the A and Z. What we have to do now is a bottom-up analysis. We have to get closer to the public polls. We have to better know what the public is composed of. And of course, we have to Twitter and Facebook in order to be there. In our center in Tel Aviv University, we have graduate students who are fluent speakers of Turkish, Kurdish, Arabic, and Persian. And they are Facebooking, Twittering the whole Middle East. And I can tell you, this is a totally different opera. What we got now is a new ball game, and what we got here is kind of a situation where we are having sort of an entrance to the open street, and if I would try to turn it into something which would recommend what to do or not to do, so for example, listening to what the ruler says, as this is everything, is something of the 20th century. To a large extent, the rhythm is being dictated by the street, and we have to make sure we are familiar with the new, let us say, horses, whether they are societies of young people, radical Muslims, NGOs, whatever. But we have to have the fabric in kind of a different way and be familiar with the new trends. Second, the instrumentality of religion in the area where I come from. And this is an anathema when it comes to Western thinking. In the West, people actually do learn history in kind of a very, very systematic way. Industrial Revolution, French Revolution, Glorious Revolution in England in 1688, all these were secular phenomena that step by step were to marginalize religion. So if I am using a Western layer, chronological Western layer, it would as if I would say
religion is going to be more and more of a passé, something that has to do with the past. Societies are being secularized with the progress of time. Just imagine that in the place where we talk about Middle East, the layer is opposite. Just think of that. That you can find yourself with the progress of time forced to admit that the one-time ideologies, including religion, or any other identity coming from times immemorial, is much more resilient, much more solid than the modern identity. Just think of that. So this is how I am going to deliver our job. Because what we have to make sure that you are using the right layers when you are entering the Middle East. And more often than not, in the last 2 centuries, Western layers were used in order to measure Middle Eastern phenomena. But Western layers, as I just said now, to a large extent are the opposite or are not that relevant to measure Middle Eastern phenomena. So we have a wake-up call here. Show me your layers. Show me your vocabulary. Show me your notions. And in almost every, or by any standard, take into account that what could be very, very precious in terms of notions in the Western mind could be the opposite when it comes to the other side of the road. Just think of that. So it's a wake-up call to measure the Middle East in terms of the Middle East. Culture, history, memory, whatever. Third. The third thing is kind of a phenomenon which was, which became very, very, I would say, fascinating. So fascinating that political scientists all over the world, including Arab scholars, were to come with that. In Arabic it is called dawla fashila. In English, failed states. Some of the states of the Middle East that were to go through the ousting of a dictator happened to find themselves in a more traumatic process. Why? Because some of them were from the beginning very artificial, as they were created by France and Britain, and were orchestrated in tandem with Western interests and not with the voices of history. Let's just have a kind of a quick look about that. I hope that I'll find that. Can you see that? This is the map of the 20th century, which means that the map is also being changed in kind of a way that should be taken into account. I'm not talking about Iran. I'm not talking about Egypt. Both are deep in ancient civilizations. But I do talk about the states in the Fertile Crescent, Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon. These states were new creatures or newly created creatures that were, to a large extent, kind of a byproduct of British-French concoction. And let me show you actually the way things were dealt with. Let's say, for example, that I'm going actually to isolate Iraq. And Iraq would be just kind of a case to the point. You can just take it elsewhere. This is Iraq. This is how the British actually orchestrated that in 1921. Why it is colored that way? Because the green part, the majority, are Shiites. The white part is basically Sunni, and of course, Sunnah and Shia is not sort of a passing phenomenon. This is kind of a conflict, comes from the early days of Islam. Is there a dormant dispute that if you are actually triggered in kind of a way that would make it come to the fore, this is definitely something actually which is going to change drastically the face of reality. Up there you have the Kurds, the orange part. Kurds are not Arabs. So green and white are Sunnis and Shiites, but all of them are Arabs. The other are Kurds. Kurds and Arabs, it's like oil and water. It is not something that was invented 2 years ago or 20 years ago, but 3,000 years ago. Now, people coming from Greece have a sense of history because you are basically part of an ancient civilization. You know that history could be very, very tricky in a way, but when you have that long way and multi-layered history, you have so many narratives and so many sources of conflict. Let me give you actually something that I was really, really thrilled to find when I was in London actually for my PhD study. And I was gathering documents from the Public Record Office. And I happened to cross kind of a correspondence between London and the then political officer, the British political officer who sat in Iraq February 1921, a month before new Iraq is being declared. A clerk from the Foreign Office is telegramming Baghdad as to say, shouldn't we have a second thought? What if Sunnis gonna go for Shiites or vice versa? What if Kurds gonna go for Arabs or vice versa? And I was very, very anxious to find the reply coming from Baghdad to that kind of a comment. And I got it actually 5 days later on. It started, of course, with a very, very polite British, thank you for the note. But we have thought about that. And it was Arnold Wilson, later on Sir Arnold Wilson, who replied saying that this would not happen here because we are going to teach them to let bygone be bygone. All these old conflicts are irrelevant because everybody is going to end up his mission becoming full Iraqi. In other words, primordial identities are going to be left behind. No more historical conflicts. Of course, you do that. Let me show you just in a nutshell what we call the, sorry for that because here you see the Syrian project. Lebanon was to be cut off of Syria. This is what the French called Grand Liban, Great Lebanon. And look at the colors. Kurds, Alawites, Druze, Shiites, Sunnis. All of them were to become Syrians. Well, 100 years later, what we know is that Kurds are Kurds. Alawis or Alawites are Alawites. Sunnis are Sunnis and Shiites are Shiites. So the first thing to be reckoned with is that these primordial identities are very resilient, let's say much more than modern identities. This is something we learned in a very painful way from what happened in the Middle East recently. And take this into account, because with the breakup of states, let me just mix Syria and Iraq, you see that? So if I would have to read the map in kind of a very, very strict way, I would say that this is, oh, that's great. This is Kurdistan. This is also Kurdistan, but of former Syria, and this too. This is Alawistan. This is the land of the Druze. This is Shiistan. And the gray spot of both sides of the one-time Syrian-Iraqi border were to become, or was to become ISIS. Because ISIS is a Sunni, Puritan body. Of course, ISIS is being evaporated these days, technically speaking, or militarily speaking. But remember, people in that part of the region identify themselves first and foremost in line with their primordial identity, not with the national identity. To a large extent, the state has become kind of a rival to my basic identity. And I won't go further in that, but you should understand that this is hell. Because what is being challenged here is the very notion of nation state. And if ISIS would elaborate, and then this is exactly what they did while using Facebook and Twitter, not airplanes and tanks. They used it in order to make people be confused with themselves. Muslims all over the place. Under the notion, actually, who you are loyal to. Oh. Just a minute. Oh, yeah. Who are you loyal to? A very typical question gleaned from the very history of the Middle East. And just to make a long story short, because we don't have time, in a nutshell, if I would be ISIS, and you are going to browse the internet, and you are a Muslim sitting in San Bernardino, California, or Florida, or Brussels, or Iraq, or Syria, or Egypt, I would come with a very, very sharp and right to the point question as to ask you, who are you loyal to? Your religion or to your state, which is a secular notion? So, ISIS is coming up with a very, very sharp equation. The more Syrian you are, the less Muslim you are. The more patriotic you are to a state, a territorial state, the less religious you are. Why? You worship artificial and secular flag, territory, whatever, at the extent of God. The more French you are, the less Muslim you are. The more Belgian you are, the less Muslim you are. So I would make him think that he should take a decision. And it has to be either or. There is no mix. Because state is the opposite of religion in accordance with their mindset. So what we have here is a plethora of identities. Now, if you can do that, what are you going to ask yourself? If you are a guy, he or she coming from the West, you'd rather ask yourself when meet somebody, whether he is Lebanese or Syrian. This is a question which is relevant for the 20th century. If you would like actually to have a clue about how to develop a power configuration map, you have to know whether he is a Sunni or Shia, Kurd, Alawite, Druze, etc. To make a long story short, we have to be equipped with new maps and new socio-demographic vocabulary. Again, I would like actually to deliver the sense of a transitory phase. The world is being changed totally, and the Middle East is dictating the middle. This is totally different from what we had in the 19th century, the 20th century. Then Europe and the United States thereafter were the leading forces. We know definitely, actually, while hearing the voices coming from Washington, D.C., from Paris, we know definitely, actually, what these sorts of declarations and policies are being made of. It is basically to talk about the other as something which is totally different than my co-nationalist. My sort of, or the people who I would like to be identified with are not necessarily the people of my state. Not necessarily. Because statehood and citizenship are debated these days. Of course, this is kind of a byproduct of Western. And add to those three things: political culture, instrumentality of religion, failed states and identities. Just get kind of a sense of how the present in the Middle East is being attacked by forces coming from the very, very basic flat of history in this region. What do you think about that kind of theater? Present is being attacked by the past in order to foster a different future. And add to that something that has become a common knowledge: United States of America. The recent 8 years neglecting the Middle East. Well, we shouldn't blame anybody because this is kind of a very decent American policy. And maybe if I were a guy coming from Alabama or Arizona, whichever, I would actually applaud that or praise it. But for the Middle East, for the first time after 200 years, the patron, the big brother, is not there anymore. And the notion became everybody for itself. So states like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Israel, that used to think in the 20th century that if worse comes to worse, they are going to be rescued by their patron. No, now that they are not. In the case of worse comes to worse, well, this could be your end. Nobody will rescue you
And if you come to think of that, you can understand why this is a very combustible region. Because nobody is to be trusted.
I have to make sure that nobody is going to take me as the dummy or the weak link of the neighborhood. So I would come with a very harsh reaction when it is highly needed. States like Saudi Arabia, for example, are to be found in Yemen and Bahrain. Why? This is totally opposite to their modus operandi in the 20th century. Why? Because they can't let Iran, their nemesis, having a stronghold there. We can talk a lot about that. But this is what happened here. Of course, so many conflicts that the notion of the 20th century, the axiom that if you would like to solve out the problems of the Middle East, the ANZ would be the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Well, this conflict is still there. Palestinian Israelis have to think together how to solve it out. But this is not anymore a master key. In my opinion, 1 million Muslims were butchered by Muslims. Some of them after having been slaughtered by chemical weaponry. And nobody stopped it. Definitely not the leader of the free world. When people cried, were so anxious to have even a little help, nothing happened. So, if you are bewildered by Trump coming to the fore, just think of maybe Trump is the byproduct of an incompetent policy which was performed by the West in the recent years. I'm not saying that this is the only thing. But I guess that people are coming up with some other notions. And I said that, and Chris heard that actually an hour ago. I taught in France last summer, in Montreal, nearby Nice, and was a kind of a very, very interesting talk with French students about what happened in Nice on the 14th of July, actually. 88 people, most of them women and children, just being run over by a guy who thought that he must do that in order to save the whole society. Well, I was noticed that the thing that was really bothering for the students is that the saboteur was a French citizen. And I knew that from now on, citizenship is not to be taken for granted. From now on, people have to think whether actually the definition of state and society, democracy and world relationships, all these things are being put under a kind of a question mark. So you guys actually, the young people of the 21st century, yeah, you have a tough job to deal with. Because the winners of the 20th century, the neoliberal camp, equipped with globalization, the ultimate winner, as the globalization supporters actually depicted that after 1989, after the dissolution of the USSR, we were left as if with a one power in the West, which happens to be neoliberal. Capitalism, democracy. Well, you see now that we are in a different place. How are we going to deal with that? This is something that I think we have to really deal with in kind of a very, very meticulous way. What we know now is it is not for a statesman or a politician, whoever it is, America, Middle East, Europe, you name it. Nobody can solve all the problems. Problems are to be solved only by people. So it should come from beneath the surface. ISIS can be challenged only by all other Muslims coming with, let's say, coming up with an alternative idea or ideology. This is not a force to be dealt with by military attack, as everybody is trying to teach us. We are going for Mosul, we are going for Raqqa. To show you that, Mosul and Raqqa. Okay, you see the arrow? This is one end of the spectrum, Mosul. This is the capital city of ISIS in Iraq. This is the capital city of ISIS in Syria, Raqqa. And, you know, there is this understanding that we are going actually to focus on diminishing them there, and there would be an end for Islamic terrorism. No, there won't be. What we have to make sure is that terrorists all over the place, not only Muslims, wherever they are, should be marginalized. And this is a very long shot. We have to make sure that the world is going through an educational revolution. That our children and grandchildren are going to become grown-ups of a system that taught them to respect the otherness of the other. Which is so rare in the Middle East, and I'm afraid, so rare in the world now. Listening to what comes from France or other states. So, respecting the otherness of the other would be, I think, kind of a good way to put an end to my short presentation, and if there are some comments or questions, I would love to give.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for your very illuminating presentation. I'm Dr. George Phillips from the International Business Department. I would like to ask, because actually, in reality, you spoke about the death of Sykes-Picot Agreement, in essence. Are we going to see the signs of this passing away on paper and officially? I mean that do you expect or do you estimate that officially the borders will change, not de facto and de jure, because as you can understand, this will bring into the surface and the Kurdish question.
Not de facto.
De jure, I said. De jure, we're going to see it.
How about not de jure but de facto, yes.
Not de jure but de facto, okay.
Is that okay with you?
Okay, good.
What I'm saying is that, listen, let's turn it into something which is more feasible. You know, Kurds up there have been dreaming for years, and they were promised, of course, time and again, that they are going actually to have a state of their own, or at least an autonomy, politically speaking. If you think that you can bring them back to Syria, this is a pie in the sky. Because these people opportunity to redefine their position, and they would go with you into one-time Syria or Iraq, if you are going to secure kind of a Kurdish state under sort of a federation for themselves. What I think I should tell you is that people should be regarded, in my opinion, in line with their primordial identity. You know, I mean, all these nonsense that we heard in Europe and were to be epitomized by the, let us say, French slogan, assimilation. This couldn't happen. I mean, you can't actually melt people. It's childish to think that way. And this is how they thought. So I think that, you know, leave and let leave, and after respecting my difference, and I hope that you're going to respect mine, let's sit together and see what sort of stream of cooperation we can build up together for our mutual benefit and for the state. So we can contribute the state, but only after the state has realized our uniqueness. And the state is not trying actually to assimilate us, because this won't work. Yes, please.
All this, I am Elena Monspouli from the History Department faculty, and I'm teaching this course in the list, so you know it's in my area of interest. And on the issue of the state, the modern state didn't necessarily want to assimilate all people, or its number one premise was that it would equally treat all peoples, irrespective of their religious, ethnic, cultural background, etc. In other words, respecting the otherness.
Yeah, but
within citizenship.
Yeah, but in kind of a recent document, not in reality.
Yes. In reality, however, the modern state has not lived up to its theoretical proclamations or the Enlightenment ideas and all of that. In reality, more so in the Middle East, but also in Europe, you have discrimination. You have one group in the Middle East, let's talk about the Middle East, let's talk about Syria, for example, or other Middle East. You do have one group, minority or majority, and I'm talking minority Alevites in Syria, or majority, clear, close to, anyway, not exactly majority, but anyway, the Sunni predominance in Iraq, not treating equally anyone else. We could add on that the colonial heritage of France, in particular in Syria, that did not wish for any type of equality of treatment, or any type of assertion of separate identities, which, however, would be combined within the Syrian identity. What I mean to say, is it the primordial identities or the failure of the states because they were authoritarian and based upon just one group to
the failure of the state,
identities?
The failure of the state opened the space or the road for primordial identities. The failure of the state in this regard, this is not Egypt. You know, I can't talk about Egypt. Egypt is a deep civilization. I've been there for thousands of years. It could be shaky, Sisi, Morsi, Muslim brothers, but Egypt is Egypt.
Yeah.
But when you take a newly created state like Syria and Iraq, which is composed of so many pieces, and the only way by which to hold together this mechanical and artificial creature is to have an iron-fisted dictator on top.
Well, we see iron-fisted dictators, however, in cases where there is no diversification the way there is in Syria.
And what happens?
Or anywhere else. So, the imperial and colonial involvement in the Middle East I think that it is connected with the authoritarian
Definitely.
one way or another. And it is connected with the discrediting of anything secular.
Yeah, but you have to remember the Middle East haven't gone through the era of revolutions as happened in the West. This is a totally different political culture. So you cannot actually apply or implement.
Definitely.
Yeah. But look at, for example, Romania. Not far from here, I guess. These are shocks that the scholarly literature could tell you a lot about, because this is a post-revolutionary fluctuations. A revolution is an electric shock. It's not just one shot and that's it. You know, you have a lot of waves after that would make you actually create sort of a balance within the society. It will take time. In our region, it's not only primordial identities, it's religion versus state. It's the West versus Occident and Orient. It's so many bits and pieces, so it's so complicated.
What I get from your analysis is that it's as if you suggest that monocultural political units would be better.
Yes.
Would
But
be
it shouldn't be
constant
states.
conflict.
It shouldn't be states, it could be a federation, I don't know.
But Iraq is supposedly a federation.
Supposedly, but this is 3 states now.
As a
It's the
federation.
Kurds, Sunnis, ISIS, and Shiites. You know, I don't want you actually to make things much more complicated, but let me just show you one thing. Because when it comes to Erdogan, look at that. Erdogan is sending from Ankara arrows to both Mosul and Raqqa, as to say, if you think that you are going to do in Mosul and Raqqa whatever you want, you are mistaken. And by the way, it's written in Hebrew here. We translate that from Turkish into Hebrew. But what is written here is that Mosul and Raqqa are part of our Turkish heart.
We'll have half of
The
this
Balkans
part
too, you know.
of
So the boundary here means nothing.
Very large.
So what Erdogan is doing, you know what he's doing? He is appealing or nurturing toward the different departure of, in the history of Syria, the Islamic Ottoman Empire, and he is bringing in kind of a hot air by which to say that Turkey as a Muslim empire, and if you have plans over Mosul and Raqqa, take into account that this is our spot. Now, at the same time, look at this, just to show you how complicated things are. Every circle here is 1 million Kurds. Okay? Every circle is 1 million Kurds. And the Kurds know that the liberation of Mosul should provide them with an independent state, which is exactly the opposite of what Erdogan would like to have. And if you would like to make the story much more complicated, go to the winner in the Middle East, a cunning state named Iran, which happened to capitalize on the situation and create for itself kind of strongholds all over the place. They are nurturing by their Shia militias kind of a battlefield in Mosul against the Sunnis. So what I'm trying to say, it would be very, very easy to think reasonably in a Western laboratory on how to refoster Middle Eastern map. But when it comes to the ground, you would see that you have to deal with so many orientations, so many interests, a plethora of dreams. So once you are going deep in, if you're going to go down, you will understand how problematic the situation is, and one would say even unsolvable. So we should be very modest, strive for partial solutions, don't come up with kind of a grand design by which to solve the problems at one shot. It is too complicated. And what we are trying actually to educate our students by, and our policymakers or whatever, is to understand that the game is totally different. And if you would like actually to deal with the problems here, you should come up with something which is totally different when it comes to your tools, your insights, your mode of thinking. So before the solutions, you have to make sure that you are aware of what the problems are. Because if you think that these are the problems that were there in the 20th century, your tools, whatever they are irrelevant. So we are just in kind of a transitory phase by which to make people be educated in line with the newly created problems, which are totally different from what we used to have in the 20th century. And of course, you have this globalization issue, because this is kind of a challenge to the whole world, I would say. And we have to make sure that we know how to deal with that, because this is kind of a different world in terms of information and in terms of the way people are being tempted to do this or that and to react in response to whatever comes up in the virtual world. You know, when I was a child, actually, I don't know if you would agree to that. When we had to profile somebody, we asked, or we were approaching two main systems: his school, so to speak. Where did he learn? And the second is his family, or who. They were the two systems that were to shape the personality of a human being. I dare say these days that in the CV, we should include something like, show me your Facebook friends, in order to make me create sort of a profile which is much more relevant than you. And Facebook is challenging school. Facebook is challenging who? That this is a totally different order. I don't know if educators are thinking that way, but they should. Because these actually systems should be brought into the curriculum, one way or the other. Otherwise, there will be an ongoing rivalry. And students will have to actually take sides, so to speak. So, I mean, we have so many challenges. So don't be tempted by the one, he or she, saying that he knows how to solve our own problems. This is just a mirage, a lip service, more than not. A guy, he or she, who would say such a thing, well, you could definitely say that this is kind of a byproduct of ignorance. To say that I know how to solve our own problems. It is too complicated for a human being, whoever he is, to deal with all these at one time. So we have to take it one at a time to make sure that I know who I'm dealing with, his language, his culture, his history, the way he is memorizing himself, so important. There is a huge world in the back of the mind of the other. And more often than not, it is totally different from the back of the mind of mine. So what are we going to do about that? The first thing to know is we shouldn't talk about right and wrong, because these are relative layers. We are sliding into kind of a world where the post-truth is becoming relevant. Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much as well for your extremely insightful and
Thank you.
and informative speech. I'd like to ask a question that is not directly linked to your speech, but if you could give your opinion, I'm sure others will be interested as well. I'd like to ask your opinion on the Muslim ban that President Trump imposed. Not whether you think it's legal, outrageous, or whatever, but whether you think that this will have an effect to further radicalize Muslim youth that already, as we know, is feeling alienated, especially in Europe, etc. And whether this will have an effect of saying, see, we're unwanted, it's us against them, and radicalizes Muslim youth further. So have the opposite effect.
It has to alienate them. Trump's couldn't care less, because in any case, Muslims in the United States are not his constituency, not his base. But, you know, if you would allow me to get back to my last notions, Trump is not the problem. Trump is a symptom of the problem. Trump is talking to people who elected him. And to a large extent, what he's doing, in my opinion, is domestic consumption. You know what I mean? I accept some of his notions, for example, while speaking of Iran. Iran is a cunning state, which has so many strongholds all over the Middle East. They destabilize in the region. I'm talking not about the Iranian people. I'm talking about the Ayatollahs and the Pasdaran, which means the revolutionary guards. But you see, it's not, Trump tells you that something happened. In the last shift of Obama, that we didn't notice. This is exactly what the coming to the fore of Trump means. You know, if people are afraid of something, you have to deal with that. You can't actually let them understand that things are going to be settled one way or the other. You know, if Vladimir Putin is annexing Crimea, now, historians actually know, definitely, that the story of Tsarist Russia and Crimea is a story that dating back to the 19th century. I was following closely what the Americans had to say about that. John Kerry was bewildered. He said that this is outrageous. This would have, dramatic ramifications on the world. But he tried to explain to Putin why what he did cannot be done in the 21st century. I'm quoting, it's not my interpretation. What you just did in Crimea was typical to the 19th century. Then we had some autocrats who came up with weak excuses or pretexts and swallowed out territories. This was the 19th century. You can't do that in the 21st century. And you know what happened? Putin didn't respond, he just did. You can't do that. You can't let a butcher who is slaughtering his own people by chemical weaponry like Bashar al-Assad. You can't say as a superpower, this is crossing the red line. We are going to deal with that guy, he's going to pay the price. And later on, after having, kind of a discussion with the Russians or whatever, it is being ended up with nothing. You can't This is something the world is paying price for. And if you ask me, after every Obama, you're gonna have a Trump. In 2000, I asked my friend in DC when Bush Jr. came to the fore, and I asked him, can you tell me, in one word, what do you think about the change of the Clinton, Don, and Bush? And he said, yeah, it's ABC. I asked him, what's ABC? He said, it's anything but Clinton. Anything but Clinton. Every president is coming up with an own brush. Trump is very Trumpy, He has a temperament which is totally different, so it goes to the extreme. But if you ask me, this guy is an American first policy. This is what I warn my policymakers, because people in Israel are thrilled of Trump, especially the right. They think that Trump is going actually to let Israel do whatever it wants, wishes. No, I think that Trump is very, very tricky, because this guy is kind of a business management, somebody who has a firm. He turns the US into kind of his firm, and he thinks of things in terms of give and take and cost and benefits. I don't see him sending troops to Iran. By the way, this dichotomy was solved by Obama, because when he wanted you to believe that there must be an agreement, he put it in kind of dichotomy. It's either agreement or war. We know that you can do a lot dealing with Iran if you would like actually to limit its power. And let me tell you what I think, and it goes back. Maybe we won't have Sykes-Picot, but you know what we're going to have, maybe? We're going to have kind of a tough, cold agreement between these two guys, Putin and Trump. That would be actually sort of an agreement about tactics here and there, by which to isolate Iran. If I'm listening carefully to what he offers in the Middle East, in the deserts of Syria and Iraq, he says, and this guy, in the meantime, does what he says actually, he is going actually to build up lacunas, territorial lacunas, which are going to be defined as no-fly zone areas, and create kind of a territorial corridor from war barrels to there in order to protect people. I don't know, this is something which is very, very cold, tough, and mechanic. But if we are going for a real change, if we would like to have healthy societies, well, this is a long shot. Coming from beneath is also for people, educators, clerics, to come up together with kind of an alternative idea by which to make people believe in their own future, to see the glimpse there. What ISIS is selling is death, is desperation. And in that kind of a world, many are really, really desperate. Economically speaking, culturally speaking, psychologically, I don't know. But this is actually the vicious circle the world is in. You are capitalizing on the predicament of ordinary people, and you are poisoning their minds. And you can do that by Facebook and Twitter. That is counter-globalization. And instead of having a global village, as people promised us 20 years ago, we are having a bunch of cultures, and each one of them is really anxious about not being assimilated by the global world. So globalization is providing you the information by which to foster your uniqueness and not be assimilated by the storm.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I mean, I've been looking at, you talk about the horrendous Gordian knot there in the Middle East, but moving the prism a little bit to the Muslims, the young Muslims that live amongst us, that live in Europe. How do you see their primordial identities? And do you agree with Bernard Lewis when he talks about seeing basically Islam as their first allegiance? How do you
Unfortunately,
see
I
that
agree
we
with
in
him.
the West can deal with that?
You know, unfortunately, I agree with him. Until 2 years ago, I had every year when he came to Israel, lunch with him. But I think that Islam is not a monolith. I don't think we should take it. You know, in Judaism you have also lunatics. And I guess that in Christianity. Not as so many, but lunatics. Religion is a tool. When you are dealing with religion as a set of beliefs, this is a great thing. When somebody is trying to politicize religion and to create kind of a lever by which to gain power, religion is becoming very, very dangerous because it is an ultimate ideology. It will be very difficult for a rational ideology or a secular one to debate when religion is on the other side. You know, religion could take this life just like a small bridge, because the al-akhirah, which means the better world or the main world, the relevant world is thereafter. For a secular guy, death is the end of everything. For them, death is the beginning of something which is better than what you had there. Think of that. I mean, these are the layers. Now, I'm not going actually to Islamize people or to Christianize or to whatever. I am going to respect what they are. Now, they have to promise me that for this respect that I'm going to give them, and they are going actually to have their educational system, they should have almost everything. But they should be loyal to the state in terms of contributing to the state in civilian speaking. Kind of nature of civilian service in school, in hospitals, whatever. They have to come to the fore and show me that the meaning that they are citizens of this state has nothing to do with their identity. You know, in other words, I would have to make the state compatible with our identity, not a rival to their identity. Think of that. And this is a matter of education. Because if you talk about people on, I don't know, our age, we are over the hill. I don't know if we can talk about the young people sitting here, but I am even speak about our grandchildren. Because they would have to carry the burden of the 21st century. If this is the rhythm, it looks bad. Because it is so rapid, it's a totally different rhythm. I agree with you. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you about the dictators and radical Islam. I personally grew up under a dictator. And when it comes to radical Islam, my personal opinion, what dictators are good at is fighting radicalism for political reasons, because they know that the alternative is the Islamists, so they don't want to have the power. But at that time, under a dictator, if a guy even grows a beard and starts praying, he goes to jail, he gets arrested. You can't go to the mosque 5 times a day without being bothered by the police. And in some cases, they forced them to drink alcohol and eat pork. I mean, they just didn't let them breathe. All over the Arab world, and most of the terrorists were radicalized in the West because they didn't have space to get radicalized.
I agree with you. That's what, you know, the leader of Al-Qaeda was Osama bin Laden, a Saudi guy. His nowadays leader is Ayman al-Zawahiri, which is an Egyptian in origin. These people were ousted from their own state because they were pariah. They were, you know, in kind of a dangerous state.
Exactly. So don't you think that democracy and freedom, in a way, doesn't belong in the Middle East? And the only way to keep the Middle East stable and safe is through tough and strong dictators.
You know, this is Trump's notion.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less. Let Bashar al-Assad stay there, but ISIS is something we're gonna actually deal with. But listen, I told you in the beginning that something happened here. People in the Middle East crossed the no-return line, in my opinion. Barriers of fear collapsed. They're not afraid anymore. So even if you are Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, many in Egypt says, what is that? Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. We are being left with Mubarakism without Mubarak. It's not that right. Because Sisi knows that in the end of the day, he should come up with kind of some benefit to be shown regarding the public. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
The ruler is listening to what the public says. Look at Romania these days. Romania was ruled by this clique of Ceausescu and Elena. They treated the state as a personal fiefdom. This is something, if you ask me, we won't have anymore. If a guy is going to run states that way, people are going for him. And you know what is good? People know that. Now, democracy, and this is something that I'm going maybe to surprise you. Dictatorship should be actually, you know, ousted, but it will take time. But democracy has to think of itself. Whether reading the book, always, by any standard, is the right thing to do. You know, democracy has to come to terms with reality too. Now, it is difficult to say that, but in Europe, you know that the president of France couldn't come up with the notion of Islamic terrorism because this very notion was against the Constitution. You're not allowed to put it that way, in line with the French Constitution. You didn't know that?
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So, you see what I mean? The more pure you are, the more problems you have. You have to deal with the reality. You can't come up with kind of an ideology that this is it. I'm not going actually to change even the slightest change because the principle is what counts. If this is the world we're going to have, we're going to have many clashes, day by day, time and again. You are different than me, and I am different than you. Let's respect each other. Let's talk to each other. Let's see what is bothering you, what is bothering me. We can live together, we can coexist. Without you changing me and I'm changing you. And you know what? After respecting each other, we're going to build up, as I said before, a strip of cooperation for the benefit of both of us. This is something which is so, I would say, painful and long-term that we can't have it tomorrow. It has to do with educational revolution. It has to do with schools, with ministries, with people coming from the public,
educators, clerics. It is a long charge, and I hope that would have the power, us, to work for that. Because we know actually not politicians are going to save us. They are thinking, wherever they are, on their politics of survival, you know that. Which more often than not happens to be against the will of the public, or the welfare of the public.
Sorry, you, during your lecture, your presentation, you didn't focus a lot, I noticed, on Saudi Arabia and its role in, I'm not going to be blamed.
I didn't want to confuse you more than that.
Yeah, no, but I think Saudi Arabia is exporting the ideology.
Through education.
Through education, through everything. I mean,
But you know why they did it? Because they thought that if they are going to do that, they are going to be immune of that thing happened to them. Until ISIS came to the fore with Qaeda, and they say, hey, we are going for Mecca too. See what I mean? So this is the vicious circle of the Middle East. You know who created Al-Qaeda?
Yeah.
You know that basically it was Saudis and Americans who tried to compile kind of an organ that would beat the Soviets in Afghanistan. You know, this is kind of a march of stupidity. History is not necessarily kind of a series of good things created by human beings. It is a series of mistakes, one would say. It is both, but basically you can see actually that people can teach you to the oblivion, saying that you are getting closer to a safe haven. So, you know, we have to be very, very careful, modest. We can't change it all. We barely can be responsible for ourselves with all our problems. There's no problems in life. Let's make sure that our surroundings in the society will hear at least from us things that are going toward the direction of respecting the others of the other. Because all of us are going to lose if that won't happen. All of us are going to lose if that won't happen. And you know what? If you think that ISIS feels sorry while seeing Trump coming to the fore, no. Trump is the other side of the coin. The way he talks, the way Marine Le Pen talks, makes ISIS understand that he has won. You see what I mean? So it is so complicated. What counts is actually what is your point of departure and what is the way you pick up in order to look at things. In my opinion, you shouldn't talk about a specific culture, but only after having or being knowledgeable about the culture, about the language, about the history. And most importantly, as I said before, about the way people do memorize themselves. This is a fascinating story, what's going on in the Middle East. Because nobody leaves in the present. Nobody. Everybody is running up with a narrative in the back of his mind, gleaned from times of old. So basically you have a theater of the present being played by incumbents, but each one of them is refueling the story coming from the past. So you have to know who is who and what the story being adopted by a certain player. That is very, very tough. But I think that if we are ready for having a long march, if we are ready to internalize the fact that there is no one clear-cut solution, definitely not quick,
if we are ready to some payments, we're going to start with that tomorrow or even today. And this is sort of a mission to everybody's country. It is kind of a mission to human beings, because otherwise it's going to get worse. You cannot get back the demons after the tip of the Pandora's box has been opened. You cannot. So if you would like to deal with that, deal with that. If you think that things are going to be settled by themselves, well, I don't think so. Wow, I mean, and you are not a Middle Eastern, you are not students of the Middle East, and you are so interested in that. You have students of the Middle East here? Oh, yeah, but, it's great actually, so I would, sorry?
That's the previous semester.
So in case, Chris,
Yeah,
people,
we can, any other last question?
Maybe.
We're going to be around here, okay? So we can stay a little bit if you want. You can
I
address
have one
us.
question which, in regards to the mentality, in the Arab world, like the Arab mentality, the Muslim mentality, that they never take responsibility of everything, every bad thing, and I'm sure you're very familiar with this, every bad thing
it's
that
a matter
happens
of
to them.
education.
Yeah,
It's a matter of education.
yeah, every bad thing that happens to them is blamed, is a conspiracy.
But it's
or
a matter of
conspiracy.
education. You know, you don't take responsibility because somebody taught you or educated you to always think of who did it to me, who
Yeah,
is to be blamed.
exactly.
You know, I mean, this is kind of the type of thinking that is definitely a byproduct of education. This is why I say that you have to make sure that people are becoming grown-ups who take responsibility of themselves. Very well open-minded. You know, if I would tell you that in the Arab world, in the last 30 years, books of different language were translated into Arabic. 30 years, the whole of the Arab world. And that was equivalent to 1 year in Spain. How about that? If I don't know the histories of the other, if I'm becoming a grown-up that thinks that my history is the only one, or the only one relevant, and the others are, you know, this is bad. And you are done, because that kind of a guy cannot be helped out anymore. Somebody actually installed in his mind a fixed idea. You have to start from the beginning with a kindergarten. So I have a kindergarten where you are going to show to your son the guys from the other culture coexisting with him. See what I mean? If you think of that, that could be one thing. In Syria, you can't do that, because the other is my enemy. It's either he or me. So I would start with sort of a federation. Federation. Live and let live. Thereafter, we're going to see. And this federation is going to be created only by force, because somebody has to be there. Once actually there is a slight change, it could be easily turned into a bloodshed. So you have to work. Do you have a wall to implement such a thing? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. You have a different wall these days. And, you know, if you snooze, you lose. This is something we learned in the Middle East. If you think that things are going to, let's get back in 5 years' time, and then we're going to see actually what remained of the Middle East, and we're going to start dealing with that, let them see. Because, you know, the backlash is now being seen in Europe and some other parts of the world, not only the Middle East. And just one last slide. Think of that. See all these arrows, red arrows. These are refugees striving to have kind of a safe haven. And these people, try to find kind of a, where is it? Oh gosh, sorry. See Syria. Now you have in Turkey 3 million refugees, Syrian refugees. They are in refugee camps. Erdogan is taking a lot of money from Europe in order to keep them, otherwise he would release them. Same goes for Jordan, 2.5. Some places in Iraq. Not to mention Libya and the Mediterranean, and Africa, not to mention, Balkan, Turkey, and of course Western Europe. So this is an epidemic thing, epidemic phenomenon. Yeah, I mean, a failed state is not something to be confined to the state itself. It is first of all impacting neighboring states and countries, and later on neighboring continents, other continents. Now, those refugees did nothing to nobody. They simply weren't in the right place in the right time, that's all. And they are running for themselves, and they are not running, but only in terms of primordial identity. Because if I'm a Sunni, being haunted, I would find a place where Sunnis are the dominating force. And vice versa with the Shiites, with Kurds, Alawites, etc. So there is no meaning to my nationality anymore. Only if somebody is going actually to bring order back. Who is going to be that? Putin. You can't count on this guy. He is by himself, sort of a butcher. Trump, I don't know what Trump has in mind. Europe, what is Europe? Before the Brexit, after Brexit, we had a real breakup. We don't have the systems we used to have in the 20th century. And this is why I say everything is becoming so combustible, so problematic. Because I, in the Middle East, knew if I was Egypt or Saudi Arabia, the West is going to rescue me. Why? This was Mubarak's notion. And he didn't ashamed even to say it bluntly to Condoleezza Rice. You're going to support me if you want and if you don't want. Why? You know what you're going to get in the stead of me. I don't know who asked me about the dictators. Well, what Mubarak didn't know is that people can opt by themselves, because this was not in its own vocabulary. He was afraid of army officers, and he was afraid of the mosques. But the people? What is that? People are nothing. That was the notion in the 20th century. I don't think that this is the notion, at least not in the mind of any other leader. And for me, this is a change by itself. We'll have to wait and see, guys. I mean, it is really a pleasure to talk to you, and I would definitely
thank you for talking to us. We'll still be around if there's any question. Uzi Rabi, come.